What is your perspective of the story of modular synths?
For me, I mean, where it's gone now is completely different to what I envisaged I would be doing with it. I guess when I started, the reason I wanted to buy it, the reason I bought into it as a user to begin with was I wanted that analog sound. I wanted to be able to experiment a little bit more freely than I could with the kind of fixed stuff that you might otherwise buy. Musically, I guess in my head was the kind of the big heady days of Tangerine Dream albums where they had the big walls of synthesizers all sort of doing polyrhythms and sequences and stuff, and that's what I have in my mind is what I would want my analog synths to be like. And modular seemed like a good way to go for that. And I think you can get that a lot of those different analog flavors in a kind of mix and match kind of way, rather than having a room full of huge keyboards. To be honest, you can explore a lot more ground in a smaller space. I don't know if that's part of what interests me in it. One of the things I really liked about modular as soon as I started getting into it was you just end up in places that you would never get to otherwise, not because you didn't know how or because it was somehow original. It's just the way things happen just leads you to happy accidents and trying things, and things sound amazing suddenly, and you think, oh, record a bit of that, and off you go. The marriage of modular synths and easy multi-tracking and easy editing in a computer is heaven, because you can just do all this random stuff that only ever happens once. But as long as you record it all, you can then build these kind of coherent tracks out of it. I think that's a particularly powerful marriage that obviously wasn't possible the first time round modulars were big. So maybe that's the thing. I don't know.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to get started prototyping modular synths or any hardware product for music?
It's a tricky one, because when I started, there were nowhere near the wealth of options that you have nowadays for this stuff. I mean, depends what you want to do. If your passion is analog, then there's absolutely no substitute for just getting stuck in with a breadboard and plugging in some transistors and op amps and sending some sound through it and see what it works. I mean, there are so many resources online or books or stuff for analog electronics. There's very low barrier to entry with that. Just have some fun. But digital, there's a lot to be said, I think, for cutting your teeth in software before you go near embedded hardware. I mean, it's so much easier, or the development iteration time, if you've got like an idea that is like a DSP idea, to do that in a VST or even Max MSP or MATLAB even, rather than mucking about in hardware before your actual software idea is. I've never used an Arduino. Has that true? I've helped my children learn to use an Arduino, but I've never really kind of gone down that road. I've kind of inherited the game developers' mantra of not invented here. So basically, if I haven't personally invented it, then I have no interest in it. So I've always gone kind of straight to my own embedded platforms, which is kind of the hard way to do it. But it's also fun, and you have total control. But if you're getting started, I mean, I don't know. Depends what you already know. If you know a bit of electronics and you just need to make the jump to modular, like an Arduino. What else is there? There's the. I honestly can't speak from experience. That's the trouble. I know there are plenty of things around.
We have another question from Twitter, which speaks more to the development, and we've had a little bit of that before. But so the question is, how does the development cycle work, and to make it shorter, from a concept to release?
I mean, I wouldn't want anybody to think that I had a plan that and I wrote it all out on a piece of paper and followed it from A to B and then released something. It's random. It depends, basically. Sometimes you have a brilliant idea that you have to spend a little while thinking, what's that actually going to be? And then sometimes it's perfectly obvious what it has to be from day one, and it's just a matter of realizing it. But I guess generally for me, I try and like breadboard things still. If I can do it with through-hole components on a breadboard, prove that something actually works, I do that. But given a lot of the stuff I'm working with, it's pretty detailed surface mount stuff. Sometimes it's almost impossible. So then you're in the case of going directly to laying out a PCB to get made, because otherwise there's no way you're going to be able to even try this thing. So yeah, straight onto the computer, laying out PCBs. Getting those built is easy enough. Getting the surface mount work done by a contractor is easy enough. I still solder on the through-hole stuff because I like to wheel the soldering iron every now and again just to remind myself I'm alive. Depends what it is. That might be it. That if it's something that hasn't got any firmware, then if the hardware works first time, it's done. And I think, I don't know how normal it is. I find by the time I've actually built a prototype module, the hardware is often done. It's not unusual to get it right first time, which is nice. But then if there's firmware to be written, then obviously that can go on for ages. I mean, the listing EX, for example, the hardware was done certainly 6 months before release, probably more. And then it was just this huge software effort to take all the stuff, the listing Mark IV, and port it and expand it and make it better. But yeah, so breadboard prototype on the computer, get it built, and then you've got all the fun bit of making it line up with the front panel design. My front panel designs are exceptionally utilitarian, so that obviously often doesn't take too much, because I'm still doing it the old school way of having the panel that way and then the PCBs that way. So everything has to be in vertical lines basically, which makes it nice. Though some things like the ES9, that was a nightmare because that's actually got 4 PCBs that way and then on the back plane that way, and they all have to join up.